Hello, welcome back to Raising Arrows Mama. Today we are going to be tackling the topic of how Charlotte Mason teaches languages. If you are new here, my name is Heather. I am mama to 8, and on this channel I share things homeschooling, homemaking, and large family related, but lately we have been doing a deep dive into Charlotte Mason's methods in curriculum, primarily using Philosophy of Education, which is her 6th volume. This beautiful copy is from Living Book Press. I don't get anything from them. I'm just really love my copy. Forgive me, my windows are open and there are wild feral children outside, so you may hear them from time to time. Today, as I said, we're going to be talking about languages. We've been going through the 3 knowledges, and if you are new to the series, you may want to go back and see those other videos to get the gist of what's going on here. But long story short is that Charlotte Mason says that all of our curriculum, it comes down to 3 knowledges. Knowledges of God, knowledge of man, and knowledge of the universe. And all areas of study fall under those 3 headings. We did a deep dive into knowledge of God and exactly how Charlotte Mason prescribes it and how I utilize that in my classroom, in our home. And also how I differ from her and what that really means. Then we've been tackling the knowledge of man studies. So far we've talked about history and composition, and today we're going to talk about languages, which is a really short section for a lot of subjects. And basically we're going through all of her parts that are at the back of volume 6. And it goes through piece by piece. First, she talks about knowledge of God. Then she talks about knowledge of man. And here are the subjects. Here's how we teach them in the PUS or in her Parents Union schools. And then she will go into the subjects that are knowledge of the universe. And Lord willing, we will get to those as well. But like I said, I have previous videos. You may want to check out those because I try to share what Charlotte Mason says, and then either in that video or a subsequent video, share how that plays out in our home. So if you're interested in some of those other subjects, you may want to go check that out. But today we're going to tackle the topic of language. Yeah, you might read that and be like, what did she mean by language? What? Because here in America, language arts encompasses spelling, grammar, literature, and composition. Those are the language arts here in America. That's not what she means here. She means the actual study of language. And so the very first section of it is about grammar. She literally goes on to talk about the grammar and how we're going to teach grammar and how basically we do it wrong. A lot of times they were doing it wrong 100 years ago in England, and we're doing it wrong here in America because we're trying to teach them parts of speech rather than the whole sentence is. And that's like trying to teach a child to spell a word when they don't know what the word is and have never heard it before. And so she goes on to say that. And I really love that she ends that whole section with, and we don't really have anything new to say about this, and we just hope that because our kids have been taught the habit of attention, they're gonna learn better. But she does go through the nuances, and I just really love her wit in here, and I love how she is very specific. Like you need to teach them this first, teach them what a sentence is, have them do these things, and then start breaking it down. And then, start really basic. For those who don't know, we start with the subject and a verb. What is that? And that's what we need to focus on, and what do they answer, and what is their purpose? Then we can start getting into the other nuances of it. She doesn't get into diagramming or anything like that. She just really kind of keeps it pretty simple. And one of the things I love is she says, one more initial idea is necessary if children are not to wander blindfold through the mazes of grammar as she is not spoke, but writ in books. And just saying that, so many kids are lost when it comes to grammar. She gets it. Everybody struggles. Let's try to help make it more accessible for our kids. And you just have to do it through having that habit of attention and helping them focus on the things. And she says specifically, we have nothing new in the teaching of grammar to suggest. They don't have any new ideas. This is what we're going to do. And we actually, the way that she outlines the very bit, she goes just a little bit here. We have done that before, and it worked really well until I had so many kids that I would then have to teach 5 grammar lessons in a day or in a week. And it became a little too much. And so we have changed from doing the Charlotte Mason prescribed. That said, I have done it with my oldest and it worked very well. So I just want you to know it's just the time commitment that I couldn't justify with all of my kids. So this worked really well. Basically going through how does she say it? The thing we speak of, and what do we say about it is how we explain it. And some of it is when you go through some of the, like Karen Andriola has reprinted it. I think CM Simple Languages has, or CM Simple Studies maybe has been reprinted it. You can access for free what she used on Charlotte Mason Poetry. All three of those is the same thing, and it's like first language lessons or something like that. And you can use it, and it works really well. Like I said, I did it with my oldest. The nuance of speech 100 years ago in England is quite different from today, and that can become a hindrance. And that's what I ran up against with my mildly dyslexic child, and then also with having multiple kids, they were needing more hand-holding through it. So just keep that in mind. It works really well. You can do it. It's available, literally what she used. And so you can go check that out. But then she goes on and she's like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. There's nothing new. Nothing new under the sun when it comes to grammar. You got to pay attention and figure it out. And then she goes on to other languages, because in Charlotte Mason schools, you would be studying a second language in those primary years. My caveat with all of this is that they would have native speakers teaching the course. That makes a really big difference. For those of us who are not native speakers, who are not bilingual, who do not know this other language, we're going to struggle applying some of her principles. Not impossible, but we are going to struggle with them. And so I kind of went through what she has them do starting in Form 2B, which would be about 4th grade. And the basic of it is that you're still going to go through the regular coursework of doing sentences. And she doesn't go through this here. It's in another one of her volumes. I think it's in volume 1. You might want to check it out. Cherrydale Press has some of this. You can get that. Simply Charlotte Mason sells them as well. And it's basically that you're teaching children whole sentences and using them in practical ways, and not just teaching them vocabulary words that they can cherry pick and use. And so that's what they're saying is you use your primary French course. So the kids are already doing that and they continue it. But about 4th grade, you're going to start having them narrate a sentence or paragraph that has been read to them in that language. And so just like we were doing in English, we read them a story and we have them narrate back. We're going to start doing that in the foreign language. But by the point that they're here, they've already been singing folk songs and know a few in that language. They already can hold a simple conversation in that foreign language. If you're not there, these skills are not going to apply, which is kind of where my kids are. And so it is difficult to apply what she says if you don't have that basic conversational ability in that language. And like I said, she does not go through that in this volume. She does talk about it in volume 1, I believe. And again, it's going to go better if you just get a native speaker to teach your kids, but we don't always have that option. Back to your kids are already conversational in the language. What are they going to do next? They're going to listen to sentences and then eventually paragraphs and then eventually pages, but you're going to have them listen to a story or sentence and narrate it back to you in that language. And then they should be able to do that. And then you're going to start adding in some songs and fables and just kind of elongating what they're already doing. And then she tells us that the act of narrating gives them some command of French phrases as far as they go, much more so than if they learnt the little passage off by heart. And so she's saying that by them learning to read to you Alouette, just because she's using French, I'll use the little bit of French I know. They can read you all the words of that poem. They can sing it. They have it memorized. But if they can't tell you what it's about, they don't have quite the command of that language. And I see that when I teach Bible lessons with kids. Like I will tell my teachers all the time at church, and I'm like, I would love for them to memorize the scripture. But if they can't tell me what that verse means, then they have not truly hid that verse in their heart. You gotta know what you're saying and be able to explain it to others, to be able to really have a command of that. And that's all she's saying in French. She's not saying don't do recitation in French, don't do songs and have them memorize, and that's not what she's saying. She's saying that if they can narrate it back to you, then they have an even better command than just doing that. And so she goes on to give an example of how somebody would do this, but again, with a native speaker. And then she goes on to add some of those other examples with further languages, because in a Charlotte Mason language, or Charlotte Mason schools, I believe that they had a command of 4 languages by the time they graduated. They would start with a second language early, then they would add in Latin, and they would also add in French and German were the languages that they learned. And she says basically the same thing with Latin, that we're going to teach it the very same way, and that through learning these other languages, along with their basic English studies, they're going to get that grammar, and that the foreign language studies are going to actually enforce or emphasize what they're already learning in grammar. I hope that helps. Might be clear as mud. I don't know. I know that this is an area that I struggle with, both personally and in our home. I am not a native speaker. I am not bilingual. I can carry very tiny conversations, very few sentences in Spanish with my kids. I can read it better than I can converse, because like she just said, I haven't gotten that vocabulary part of it. And so this is something we struggle with in our home. I'll try to share a video on how we are approaching grammar and what we've used in the past. But just know that you're really wanting to make sure your children have the focus of attention, and then follow whatever grammar program you're using. We do not start grammar into 4th grade. That's when she recommends. Also, you're starting in that 4th grade, and that's going to be reinforced by those other languages that you're adding in. 4th grade, you start adding in Latin. In 4th grade, you start advancing past in your foreign language if you're following her program. If you're like me and your kids are not at that point in grammar and you are not doing Latin, that's a side note. If you're not doing those things, then you're not ready to take these steps. So you'll have to find a way to meet your children where they are, and just ignore what she says for the grade level, because even Charlotte Mason isn't going to say, force your kid to be able to narrate in a foreign language by 4th grade if they don't have the vocabulary. You got to start at the beginning. So, use your discretion. Go check out volume 1, because I'm pretty sure it says more about this. I don't have volume 1 in front of me, or I would. It's still packed up. But the basic nuances are to teach them in whole method, and not piece by piece, because we want them to be able to actually grasp what they're saying and to be able to communicate both in English grammar as well as in foreign language study. So I hope this has helped. If you have a question, if you have some suggestions on how to apply these better in your homeschool, please drop them below. Let's make a conversation about this, because I do find that grammar and foreign language studies do tend to be a hindrance for many families. And so, like I said, I'll have another video talking about what we do for both of those things. And if I really get behind and don't know what to do for a video, maybe I'll make one about our experience with Latin. But anyways, like I said, drop a comment or question below, and thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day.